I wrote that paper because everybody's got a different utopia. All if we all asked each other what our utopia would probably be different, and that's not a bad or good thing. I think it's a good thing that people do have different ideas of utopia, because as we develop the AI and collective intelligence, we want to people to enhance their own intelligence, and their own understanding and what really they want in society. How do they see their community, and what's the best thing that would be good for them in that community. So it's a very challenging question if you ask people what their utopia is, because they actually have to sit down and think about, well, actually, what is my utopia and how would I build that utopia? you know. So really, programs like this, I think, can empower people to think about, okay, I think utopia is a great idea, and I don't agree with Wadzy. I don't agree with Wadzy's utopia. I've got my own utopia, and in my community, how could I build that? So really, if we look at the renaissance of every city, you had artists and you had huge expressions of art and culture, and they're all different. You go to the European cities where they had the Renaissance. Pictures are different. Art started to change. You had Bruegel painting working class people. And that was a Renaissance. So I think AI could really bring in a renaissance of that whole creative things. I mean, look at the cities we're building; they're so ugly. God, I go to Melbourne, like, how could someone build such an ugly monstrosity? And then you go to Europe and you go to places where with the Renaissance and beautiful buildings you know, and they could build this 400 years ago, and we're in this bloody thing now, and we're building crap, and we're in ugly suburbs and ugly cities. Why are we doing it? You know, I mean, no one could. I can't see that anyone could see that Melbourne's a utopian city. It's, it's the ugliest thing you could. It makes me cringe every time I go through it. So it's good that we can get people involved. So when we are developing a suburb, it's what people want. It's not shifting in there because we've got this thing: get a mortgage, pay for the rest of your life, live in a sort of isolated community that doesn't have any social services, and you go off to a job, and that's not going to exist. That's the point. We're building all these suburbs that people are going to go off to an office and work all day. In 20 years, that's not going to exist. So how do we make those communities really exciting and vibrant and creative? And that's what I think. We need to have these places that are creative and people involved in their community. And that excites me about AI, and that's what's going to challenge us in this next period. How do we make AI work for us, not against us?